Hey everyone, welcome to Love Remembers. Today we have an incredibly special guest. All of you know him, doesn't need an introduction. Mike Nellis is here with us. Let's give it a little couple of seconds, let some more people join because we're me and Mike, we're gonna have a very important conversation here today. There's a lot going on in the news, especially obviously what we're seeing play out today in Israel. And let's start off with that before we go into everything else. I want to start off by saying that it is an incredibly, incredibly happy day that we got the hostages home, that we stopped the bloodshed in the Gaza, the killing, and whatever you want to call it. And believe me, I wrote about it today in my Substack. This is not just about peace. There's a lot more, especially when it comes to Trump and his administration, why certain things are playing out. But this is not, we're not going to talk about all of that today because we have a lot to break down because of what's happening here at home, Mike. Because while Trump is out there galvanizing, talking about peace all over the world, I mean, people in Ukraine, bombs still falling all over the place. Putin's still doing whatever he wants. Anna Paula Luna is inviting Putin's right hand here to talk about trade talks, while instead of sanctions. And here at home is the real war zone. I mean, right here at home, right where you are, Chicago. I mean, we got ICE agents terrorizing the streets. We have the National Guard being deployed today. Vance came out talking about the Insurrection Act again, and the one thing that nobody's talked about is we're in a governmental shutdown. I mean, this is already 2 weeks almost, right? Where we 10, 11, 12 days into a
two weeks tomorrow, right?
2 weeks tomorrow in a
Yeah.
government shutdown. People are not getting paid, and Trump's out there talking about, it's the Democrats, it's the Schumer. So the one thing, let's talk about, your thoughts about what's happening right now. And then what I really want to talk to you about, Mike, is about how do we stop this? Because a lot of people are just scared. A lot of people, go out there and say, what do we do? You tell us all of this bad stuff, but how do we get it? How do we stop this? How do we get our democracy back? And you know what? I have some ideas. I have lots of ideas. You know me. I was inside. I was part of making Mega. I know how they breathe. I know how they act. But the problem is, I don't know, the leadership, Democratic leadership, whatever it is, and that's what we'll get into it. But anyway, let's talk about what's happening in the news right now. Then we'll get into breaking it down.
Well, I want to start on Israel real quick because it's amazing that the hostages are coming home, our home, some of them, and I like, as much as I dislike Trump, it's a good thing, and I'm not going to pretend like it's not. The thing that I am worried about relative to whatever deal they've struck here is because whatever deal he makes, there's something good for it in him. So I'm worried about that. I'm worried about, ICE hasn't agreed to dismantle themselves or get rid of their weapons or any of that, which I was told was really important as part of the peace deal. So again, I feel like anything with Trump, it's like I worry about what he's getting, and I worry that it's a half measure that makes things more dangerous because he just wants to be perceived as the victor. So I worry about those things. But the hostages coming home is amazing. The genocide ending is amazing. The fact that maybe Israel can now have an election, and the people can probably likely boot Netanyahu out because Netanyahu's aggressively unpopular. So I think it's all good stuff. On Chicago. So I'm here in Chicago for folks that don't know. And I've been trying to help coordinate their response to this. Let me be clear about a couple of things. One, this is not a war zone. I don't give a shit what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and anybody else says. This is peaceful, safe city. There are parts of it that are not safe. There is crime that needs to be addressed, and our local elected leaders need to do better. But Chicago is not a war zone. And I'm sick of this shit because he's got nicer things to say about the president of Egypt than he does about his own people who live in one of the largest, best cities in America. Number one. Number two, ICE is indiscriminately targeting people because of their skin color all across this city, and people have seen the horrific images. My buddy Don Lemon's doing really good work on his YouTube page. He's here shooting videos, interviewing people, talking about what's going on. I want to keep people in to this that's happening because there's this idea that there are safe spaces where they won't go. So they won't go to government buildings, they won't go to schools. Well, on Friday, multiple schools were in, and I don't know the term for it now because I'm being told it's not officially a lockdown because a lockdown implies that there's like an active shooter or something. But multiple schools, including my son's school and including the school that I'm on the school council of, had to pull the kids into the auditorium because ICE agents were nearby. And I drove over and stood guard for like 3 hours like a crazy person trying to scare off any ICE agents. And I think me and another guy who lived in the neighborhood scared off ICE agents, and we had to coordinate the response. And, the more, basically what I was told was the more white people that are standing out front, the less likely they are to go. And the school that I'm on the school council of is 41% Latino. Hispanic. And so it's awful. You're seeing the images of them. They fired a pellet gun at a priest. They damn near ran over a woman. A border patrol agent killed a woman, and then they lied about it. I mean, and it's getting worse every day. And you can see the helicopters flying over. And from where I sit, the media is largely not paying attention to it. And it's a horrible situation for these kids. It's a horrible situation for these families, and it's turning Chicago into a powder keg.
And that's one of the things I'm talking about. The media is not reporting on it. The message is not getting out. Instead, what you're seeing is Christina Omir. They're making videos of stuff like this, but their videos are projected of how they go in there in helicopters and they're coming out, and you see like they're parading all of these tattooed,
Yeah, it's propaganda. That's all that it is.
Exactly. But we need to fight the propaganda. That's one of the things I'm saying is like I don't see no videos of coming out there. Yes, you see social media outrage, but the social media outrage, and this is one of the things me and you spoke a little bit offline about, is like echo chamber. The one thing you don't see is you don't see it reaching out to the other side because, yes, we have cracks in MAGA. We have, that you see Laura Loomer, Marjorie Taylor Greene going at it every day. You see Tucker Carlson gone. You got Bannon criticized. I mean, Trump basically, the Epstein files ripped them apart. And then now with all of the things that are going around the world, but there's nobody that the message is not getting out to the regular voter.
Right.
That is the problem. You don't have any surrogates. Like, you put on any television station, you will see a Republican or you will see a Trump surrogate on every television, except for maybe MSNBC. MSNBC might be the only one, but
right. Well, they won't do it. I mean, like they won't go on MSNBC.
Correct. But their viewership, I mean, is right now so low that it really doesn't matter compared to. So, I mean, you have a much bigger viewership than they do. My son has a bigger viewership than MSNBC.
Well, your son has a bigger viewership than both of us.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, that was a bad example. But
right.
but you know what I'm saying, Mike. I'm saying to you in a sense that but if you go, you don't see any surrogates out there fighting against it. I mean, you'll see one on Fox. What's her name? I keep forgetting the name. You know who I'm talking about on the 5.
I do know who you're talking about. Her name has escaped me, and I feel bad because I know.
And I feel bad because she's the only one. I apologize putting you on the spot, but I mean, she's besides her, you don't see anybody. I mean, you go out there, I see you sometimes on Newsmax.
Yeah, Jessica Tarloff. Thank you.
Jessica Tarloff. Thank you. I see.
You can't believe I forgot Jessica. She's awesome.
Exactly. She's incredible. But, the problem is you can't go out there and put Democrat, hardcore Democrat. Like, you can't go put my son out there as a surrogate. You can't go put Midas Touch as a surrogate. You can't go put, even what you see, what's his name, Newsom doing. Yes, everybody's applauding it. He's doing, it's funny. He's out there. He's, trolling Trump. That's not getting us any votes. That's not bringing any voters over to our side. That's not, and I'm going on these conservative, right-wing, mega social media, Twitter sites and all, and I listen to them, and they'll complain, Mike. They'll go out there, they'll say, yes, Trump's this. They're starting to talk about how he's lying, how he's covering with the Epstein file, so how he's, the Charlie Kirk assassination is now not what it seems to be. I mean, all of these things is breaking, but then, at the end of the day, you'll hear, who are we going to vote for? You're not going to go. I mean, there's no leadership. There's nobody even, on the Democratic side to using these messages. And that's one of the things that I feel so frustrated because, I mean, we definitely have the tools. I mean, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is Trump's one of her biggest surrogates that they're about to go at it. My sources are telling me she's out there. Not only is she out there and publicly attacking Trump on the Epstein files, not only is she asking Trump to sit down with the survivors in the Oval, which is important, which we'll talk about in a second. But she's also out there now talking about how it's the Republicans' fault for the government shutdown. Right. I mean, that's gold. I don't know what else.
Can I jump in there? Because a couple of things.
I'm sorry. I go into that.
No, you're good. I do the same thing. Actually, where my show is a rant positive zone. So here's a couple things. I mean, I do think a lot of Democrats are out there. Like Hakeem was on Fox News Sunday yesterday. Now I want 20 times as much viewership. And I think one of the problems with the shutdown right now is everything is so centralized around Hakeem and around Chuck, and I wouldn't do it that way. I mean, I've been critical of the sort of like unity photo ops that they've done where they've had like 213 Democratic members together showing that they're at work, which is fine to do one time. But my issue is I want 213 members of Congress out there doing different interviews and shows on YouTube, on local TV, on national TV. And but regardless, like I think the Democratic response in the shutdown has been more good than bad. Probably like B plus maybe is where I would put it. That's kind of where I've said it. And that's why we're winning that fight. It's why Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, MTG is being politically savvy here by going, my party is losing. I'm pissed at my establishment. It's another opportunity for me to show that I'm different before she likely runs for president. So like those are good kind of wedges to have there. And so I think in terms of the media landscape that Democrats have to build, keep in mind the Republicans have been building this media landscape since the 70s. Like Fox News is the culmination of 50 some years of work. And then this influencer network that they built is the culmination of 10 or 15, 20 years worth of work that they've been doing. And so we're in, unfortunately, whether I like it or not, like we're in like year one of doing this in a meaningful way. And it's going to take time to catch up. But the progress that we've made has been significant in the sense that like we have massive audiences on Substack. We have massive audiences on YouTube. But I'll argue one thing that you said, and you said this to me when you and I chatted privately on was it Friday or Thursday, is like, we're not talking to Gen Pop, which is 100% true. The general population is not hearing from the Democratic Party. They're not hearing from the Republican Party either. So both parties are too online, too in their little bubbles. A lot of them are being really weird. Like I tell all my clients, just be fucking normal and like find normal things that you do. Talk like a normal person. Go enjoy your life like a normal person, and then relate things to people's individual lives. So talk about the economy. When you talk about Epstein related to protecting women and little girls, like it's about safety. It's about how the system works. Like talk about it that way. But if you're looking for Gen Pop, go watch Joe Rogan. Go watch Theo Von. Go watch Andrew Schultz. And those guys are all completely souring on Trump completely now. The next step of that is they've got to let people into their spaces that then create permission structures for people to support whatever the next version of the Democratic Party looks like. Rogan bringing in Tallarico, good. Schultz bringing on Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg, good. Theo Von brought on Ro Khanna, good. More and more of that. And to hark it back to what I said about the selfie, right? I want 213 members of Congress that are out there doing interviews. Half of the caucus can't do that. God love them all. They might be brilliant legislators, but they are not the communicators that we need. And then the half that can do it, maybe 10% of them are uniquely talented at doing an interview or having a conversation with somebody. And that doesn't have to be all the left. Like AOC and Bernie are obviously amazing at it, but there are plenty of people in the middle that are also really good at it. Mike Quigley is more in the middle, and he's my congressman. He does a really good job when he goes on TV, when he does these interviews. So we need more of that. I need an army of them. But there's no problem from a communication standpoint, in my opinion, that Democrats have that the Republicans don't also have. It's just more obvious how we're in the wilderness because we lost the last election, and we lost for a bunch of different reasons, but they have all the same problems that we do right now. And now they're in charge, so they're being punished for them. In my opinion.
I will agree with almost everything you say. I'm just going to push back a little bit on it. I'm from the standpoint
please do.
that because the way Trump is using the pulpit, I mean, he's and again, it's wrong, playing unfair, using the White House site.
It's honestly, it's not unfair though. Like my view is, it's not unfair. Like that is Democrats struggle. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Democrats struggled in the Biden years because for 4 years we had the bully pulpit and we had none of the advantages of it. Joe couldn't do it, and then we had all the disadvantages of incumbency because everything that happens in this country is your fault when your party controls the White House. Period. Doesn't fucking matter whether it is or not. We can argue about the inflationary crisis that happened under Joe Biden and whose fault it was. Doesn't matter. It's his responsibility. Same thing's happening to Trump right now. He's better at using the bully pulpit and at capturing attention, but he uses it for his instincts are almost always wrong. His instincts are like, oh, I'm going to make a big deal about this. I'm going to distract people with that. And people get tired, but then they're pissed because inflation is so high and the stock market's not doing well outside of AI, and people aren't in a healthy financial position.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. And that's why that's one of the scariest, one of the things that I keep hearing is, and he knows it also. I mean, his poll numbers are down. I mean, inflation is high. The economy is to shit. I mean, we have ICE all over the place. People are seeing it. Even people that voted for him. A lot of these immigrants for Trump, that are now getting deported and getting arrested, and are seeing it and having people, it's touching everybody's home. So, and especially when it comes to that, I mean, after what they did with the generals, bringing them all in there and embarrassing. I mean, all the service person. I mean, they've touched a lot, and I agree with you. And that is why I think he's not so much worried about 2028. He's worried about 2026. And this is why we're seeing such a, in the past several days, constant conversation and talk about, the Insurrection Act, sending in the National Guard. Because I agree with you that in the individual races, I think there, yes, because just like you said, there's 213 congressmen and congresswomen on the Democrat side. There's also over 200 of them on the Republican side that we don't speak about. We speak about 10, 15 of the most high profile ones that we touch about, but there's another 200 something that stay quiet, that are in races that are very close, that don't want. That's another thing that I also talk about, is that we need to start putting the attention on them, putting them on blast, because they're staying quiet in a lot of these races, and not giving their opinion on what they would do with the Epstein, not just because of voting, but put the media, put them on blast in some of these. There's over 200 other congressmen and women that, just think about it, that if only 4 or 5 of them came over to the other side, not come over meaning become Democrats, but vote for humanity, for democracy, and try to give them a little subpoena power, investigative power, to stop what Trump is doing. And that's where the problem is. And is it Hakeem Jeffries? What's the problem there? You see, Mike, why can't we get more? If we could get Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we could get some of these people over, when it comes to the Epstein stuff, how come we cannot get some of these people over, to some of this other stuff, like with the big ugly bill that they passed anyway, with the what we're seeing with the shutdown right now, with also with what's going forward with the ICE and NATO. I mean NATO, the National Guard. Why? How come? Where's the communication problem there? How
Yeah.
come we can't?
Well, let's talk about why Republicans don't cross first, because I think that's an important part of what, like, they're scared. They're scared of losing their primary. They're scared of not getting the opportunities they want. Like, if you're Senator Tom Tillis, for example, and you're going to get out because you're sick of it, but you want to go get a good lobbying job, you've got to have good enough relationships in your Senate caucus with your party to be meaningful. So it's a system problem, is that he's going off to go make a shit ton more money than you or I are ever going to make by being a lobbyist for God knows what, some foreign government somewhere that wants something out of Congress. And he can't afford to do that. Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to run for president, is my assumption. So she's not going to fully cross. She's just going to make herself look independent enough, in the same way that Tucker Carlson, who wants to run for president, is going to find his avenues to do that. So I think, going one step deeper into that, of a question of how do you build some relationships here, is like, you've got to go talk to people. And Democrats have gotten really afraid to go have a difficult conversation. And that's been written to death, in my opinion, on, Democrats won't go on Fox News, Kamala didn't go on Joe Rogan, et cetera, all that stuff, which is legit. But, okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene right now is with us on 2 key issues, which is Epstein and which is the shutdown, or at least the healthcare subsidies relative to the shutdown. If I were Hakeem Jeffries, I'd see if she wanted to meet. I don't know that she would, because I don't know how sincere it is. But I think that, and I don't know that Hakeem hasn't tried that, to be clear. Let me be honest about that. But I think that the standard Democratic thought process right now is that these people are bad and unmovable, and they're horrible human beings. And don't get me wrong, because the comments are going to flame me probably about something terrible that Marjorie Taylor Greene has said. She said a lot of terrible things. And, but I sent an email to Marjorie Taylor Greene's press person yesterday. I got her email online, and I said, if she wants to come on the show and explain this to a group of Democrats and independent voters, come on my show. I've got 1.4 million subscribers. I'll blast it out to everybody, and I'll give her a fair shake. And I'm okay doing that. And it can't be a gotcha, though. I can't bring her in and start asking her about Jewish space lasers and stuff, but I want to do that.
But see, and that's the whole thing, Mike, and that's great. But your audience, our audience, we're here, Substack. It's an echo chamber. I mean,
Right.
and yeah, to get her on there, your 1.2 million people, or my 70,000, we're gonna vote blue anyway. We're the resistance.
Yeah, but it's the
movement.
ecosystem that
But
you create.
no,
Let's say,
I agree. I agree with you. We need to continue continue. But my whole thing is, we need to get that on the other side. We need to be able to get you, me. We need to be able to get Olivia Troy. We need to be able to get Miles Taylor. We need to get us on the other side and talking constantly to the Republic, to be on Fox, to be on Newsmax, to be.
Yeah, but we can't control Lev. I'm on Newsmax later today. I'm on Newsmax at, I think, 2:30 Central Time today. So they're inviting me on about once a week. Fox has kind of freezed me out over the last month. I don't know if that's for a particular reason, or if that's just, it just hasn't lined up for whatever reason. I was supposed to do Jesse Waters 2 weeks ago. They don't want to let you in. They don't. And so it's there's a problem of Democrats don't want to do it. And so a lot of them are scared to do it. But then they'll let you in, but they'll let you in once a month, maybe. and they'll pick a Democrat that they'll let in besides Tarloff, who's like she's the, no offense because I like Tarloff a lot, but she's the what was the guy from who had the show with Sean Hannity? It was Hannity and Combs, right? Like she's the co-host of Fox News right now, but she does a much better job than Combs, to be clear. But they don't want you in there, and then you can only do so well. If you do too well, they won't let you back on. They want to be able to like walk away and go. Like Jesse Waters and I had a fight, I don't know, a month and a half ago about ICE and immigration, and he screamed at me. And like sorry, I got a phone call. I very calmly responded to him with a very thoughtful answer to what he was screaming at me about. And the right wing ecosystem did a whole thing about former white dudes for Harris gets obliterated by, Jesse Waters. And then there were a bunch of left stuff that were like, Nellis responds calmly to Jesse Waters losing his fucking mind, And so it's like, it just becomes this weird framing issue. I'm not convinced that anybody who's like a normal person is seeing any of this stuff. Like my wife is not political. She was a school teacher and now she works in administration at a school. When I come home at the end of the day and talk to her, she has no fucking clue what's going on all day. So because she's listening to, Call Her Daddy or whatever shows that she enjoys. I don't know which shows my wife enjoys, to be honest with you, which probably makes me a shitty husband. But we got to break out into that, and that's cultural. But again, Rogan, Vaughn, Andrew Schultz, they are turning against these guys. The comedians are turning against these guys. Shane Gillis made that Epstein joke at the ESPYs a few months ago. Those are the things that move people and get them to engage. And if you look at the polls, to the extent the polls are right, we're winning a lot of these fights right now. We're just in the hole because we don't have one hand on the wheel in Washington right now.
And not only one hand away, but everything you're saying is 100% true. But the only thing that is missing is there's no follow up. There's no coordination. You're right. Like you went on Jesse Waters and you guys had that whole thing, and that was it. So they use that as and turn it against us. I agree with you. But there should be it has to be a whole out plan, because there should be not only surrogates on the right wing media. There should be town halls and the same surrogates going out there into local red states, confronting them where they have to cover it. They have to cover certain altercations. I'll give you a perfect example. And I'm not saying to go out there and do exactly what they're doing. I'm just giving you an example because I was part of Mega, and this is like what happened. What's going on in Portland? Portland. Oh, there's no riots going on. There's maybe 20 people standing across from ICE. Blocking the sidewalk, and
it's happening in an entire city block. That's the whole situation.
Correct. 100%. But they needed to make that bigger. They made to make it louder. They need to send the people. So they send in people like Nick Sorter. Nick Sorter, who's an influencer on X, I know very well. I've sparred with him plenty of time. Guy goes in there, gets arrested, calls Pam Bondi, ends up at the White House. Next thing you know, this is a whole insurrection happening also all over again. And now they put themselves in a position, meaning they do it to instigate. We could do it to communicate by going out there. But the problem is there's nobody on the left side that could go into a red state. There is, but there isn't.
But again, Lev, is like we're building that now. Because you don't want to send Chuck Schumer to port. Like right now in the Democratic Party, the centralization of our biggest voices are all elected officials. On the right, I would argue they're all influencers. They're like 1 degree removed, and that's intentional.
That's it. But and I don't want to interrupt you, but that's the difference. What you just said is exactly on the right. They're using all regular people like you and me, influencers out there that relate to people.
I'm not an influencer. I want to be super clear.
Whatever. Okay.
I will never call myself an influencer.
I'm not an influencer either. But
okay, great. I can hate it. I'm not here to hawk products.
But whatever.
I'm a dude with a Substack.
But what I'm saying to you is influence or whatever. But they're using regular people that are out there. They relate. They're not using political. The Democrats are waiting to find those political people. They're going to go out there and try to pierce and get the votes. What I'm saying to you is we need to do the same thing. This is the message. This is what the frustration is. There's plenty of, because remember, MAGA is not all of what's voting for Trump. There's independents. There are regular conservative. There's different reasons why the Democrats lost. Not because of MAGA. MAGA could be 30% or 25% cult, all of the out of the whole cult-like mentality. There's plenty of votes there. There's plenty of people out there that, if given the opportunity, are willing to listen, but they won't listen to a Chuck Schumer. They won't listen to a Newsom. They won't listen to Midas. They won't listen to my son, because as soon as they hear those names, they know they're hardcore left, leaning. They won't listen to Bernie or AOC. That's why we need new blood. when it comes to being surrogates. I'm not saying to run for office even. I'm talking about for surrogates. And there's plenty that have changed sides, plenty of conservative surrogates that hate Trump, that not hate Trump, but disagree, that could go out there and talk. But there's plenty of ex-MAGA like myself that are willing to risk to go out there and speak. That I'll give you an example. I could go into any conservative town hall. I could go into any of these Mario spaces, Nick Sorter, any one of them, and they will bring me up on stage, will give me the respect to speak to me because they know that I speak on Trump and I don't speak on policy. And that's a big difference right now, because right now I think, we can't keep go in there and try to keep pushing policy like whatever rights the left wants against the right, because right now I think we need to unify on humanity. We need to unify that we are, people have to open their eyes. We are living in a dictatorship. This is a full-blown dictatorship that's happening, that is playing out between our eyes. And if he incites the Insurrection Act, we're there. There's nothing different about it. And that's what I think. And that's why, again, I hate to be so passionate about it. I'm not, not blaming you for it, Mike. We're on the same page here. But I think what we're the key message that we're losing, and the reason we lost that fight, is we're too much in an echo chamber. We need to, part of our strategy, and I know you could give me all the reasons why it's not happening, why it's slowly happening, like even the Rogans or the Howard Stern. We could get, I mean, we should be able to get, and not the Hakeem Jeffries, because again, we need new blood, because the country's tired of the Chuck Schumers, the Joe Bidens. We need fresh blood, and there's plenty. If you're telling me out of 360 million people that the only people we could get up there is Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, then we do have a problem. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
I think it's like look, I think Chuck and Hakeem have their place, and the problem is we're asking them to do too much. And like, you want a good legislature, you need a good party leader, you need a good fundraiser, you need a good political operative, you need somebody who's good on TV. Like, they can't be all of those things at the same time. They just can't. And there are things that Chuck and Hakeem are good at, and there's things that they're not good at. And I try to take a more nuanced approach than just Dem party leadership bad. And for folks that don't know me, like, I'm a Democratic strategist. Like, I have like a foot in both worlds of the party, to the extent that there are two worlds, an establishment and a progressive wing. Like, I'm kind of like, I sort of straddle the line and really just try to find candidates I actually like and think are trying to do this for the right reason. Like, tonight on my show, I have Peggy Flanagan on, who's the lieutenant governor of Minnesota. She's fucking incredible. And she's running for U.S. Senate. So we're going to talk about her campaign. But I think, like, let's Rogan as an example. So, one, I think Democrats make a fundamental mistake of seeing everything as left or right. And these boxes that we put people in, and we go, well, Joe Rogan is uncomfortable with the COVID vaccine, so he's a Republican. And I'd be like, sure, but Joe Rogan also believes in universal health care. Joe Rogan also opposes what Donald Trump is doing on ICE. Joe Rogan voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016. So there's more nuances here. Or like Sarah Longwell, who I've had on the show a couple weeks ago. She does these focus groups. And, she asks people, like, are you pro-life or are you pro-choice? And like 70% of Americans will go, I'm pro-life. And then you'll go, do you support abortion rights? And they'll be like, yeah, I do. So, like, these terms and this way that we think about politics doesn't work. Trump actually understands this tremendously. MAGA world understands this tremendously. That, like, you don't put people in a box, but Democrats are like smart academic thinkers. So they're like, this college professor told me that people are like this, so I believe that they're like this. So I'm going to box them out, and then I can, do addition by subtraction, which clearly doesn't work based on the last election. So I think we've got to stop getting so afraid of the way we talk about things and who we talk to and where we talk about it, because that's why we lose. Like, Kamala Harris should have gone on Joe Rogan. And one more thing on that is, and I hate to focus so much on Rogan, it's just an easy, like, kind of person to plop in.
I agree with you.
Yeah, there's this dumb conversation on the left that, like, pops up every like 4 weeks about who's going to be the left's Joe Rogan. And I'm like, well, one, Joe Rogan is the left's Joe Rogan, in my opinion. We just alienated the shit out of him and a lot of men in this last election. You could talk about the reasons that are fair and unfair on that. But the other thing is, Democrats need to cast the widest possible net of how they invest in influencers and people who are going to go out there and talk about different issues. And so if you're putting together an incubator and you're like, I've got $50 million and I'm going to go build up these content creators, they're going to find 100 people who already have 2 million person audiences, who already have brands. Almost all of them are going to be political. And instead what they should be doing is going, I'm going to build this, and I'm going to go build a sports guy, and I'm going to go build a culture guy, and I'm going to go build this. And then you can't tightly control them, and you can't cut them off when they fuck up, especially for someone who talks about culture or sports. They're going to fuck up. They're going to say the wrong thing, but you don't know. And you're investing in stock. Okay. If you give me $1 million to invest in stock, I'm not going to put it all in one place. I'm not going to put it all on NVIDIA and hope to God that it pays off. I'm going to diversify that. I'm going to put some of it into T-bonds. I'm going to put some of it into gold. I'm going to put some of it into stocks. I'm going to put some of it into growth in developing markets. You're going to do it that way. That's what has to happen here. So if I have $100 million, it's 15 million is going to culture and 20 million is going to sports and 30 million is going to go to politics. And we're going to put 20 million in entrepreneurship. And we're going to put whatever the rest is in, life, a Candace Owens type show, right? Which I don't like Candace Owens at all, but it's very like,
but that's that's incredible. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but exactly what you said, the diversification and not get out of the echo chamber. Just like with Joe Biden, I remember, because I'm close with Hunter and the Bidens and all of that was going on. And I remember when they had all those influencers coming to the White House, my son being one of them. And I remember Hunter, I was saying to you, but they're all Democratic influencer. All their followings are all, they're not, when you're bringing you're bringing 30, 40 million, but that's your echo chamber.
They're also all towing the party line. And look, I'm a big D Democrat. Like, part of the reason that I'm not going to become the left's Joe Rogan is that I'm a 20-year veteran of every Democratic campaign that you've either liked or hated. So I have a real thing. So unless I do a full a Corrine or Lindy Lee turn on the Democratic Party, which I'm not going to do, even though they drive me crazy, it doesn't work that way. But I do think the other thing that happens here too is so I've been approached about writing a book. I'm going through the motions of trying to figure out the right way to go about doing that. And the very first book idea that's pitched to me is write a book about how we fix the Democratic Party. And I'm like, no. Obviously, yes, I could write that book. I could probably write that book in a week, but that book's been written 20 times. It's not interesting. Then somebody's like, well, Mike, you used to weigh 600 pounds and you've lost 300 pounds. Go write that book at the intersection of politics. And I'm like, okay, that's closer because it's interesting. But I'm going what is something that nobody else is doing that gets me a new audience, that reframes the conversation, that gives me an actually interesting problem to solve, because fixing the Democratic Party is my day job. But if I'm writing a book, I'd like to write it about something else. And I'll be more passionate about it. So I'm circling something on the intersection of what it looks like to be a citizen in America today, where the incentive structures are all fucked up, because my biggest thing about Trump and MAGA world is that Trump didn't break American politics. Trump is a symptom of American politics. So our structures and our systems have been broken for so long. And I want to get into that, and I want to relate it to how people can fix their everyday lives, because people are miserable. The left is miserable, the right is miserable. We're all focused up here being angry about shit. And I'm trying to solve that. And that to me is the natural evolution of where I can go as somebody with my background and record. And so instead of writing the obviously, Democratic Party is broken, here's how to fix it book, which gets me on MSNBC a few times before it fades into obscurity, it's not relevant. I want to write a book that's relevant 20 years from now. That some kid dusts off in a school library and reads it and goes, oh shit, I can make my life better now. And that will open new doors for me. And I think a lot of Democrats are afraid to do that stuff. And I'm not afraid to do anything. If I write a book and it flops, great. Whatever. I will have learned something from that experience. I will have gained new followers from that experience. If I go on Jesse Waters and I get yelled at, 95% of the audience hates me, hey, I got that 5%. Right? I go on News Nation all the time, which is center right, a little bit conservative, but not totally crazy. But I have a lot of conservative and independent voters who watch News Nation, who follow me and know that I'm not a crazy liberal. I might be the only Democrat they hear from that week.
Absolutely. And that same thing here. I got a lot of conservative. Every time I go on one of those hardcore mega or conservative, Twitter spaces, after that, I'll pick up a couple of hundred followers, DMing me, Lev, I didn't even know your story. I didn't know, blah, 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 blah. Absolutely. And that's exactly what we need more of. We need more people like you, like me, like others out there that could go out to the other side, that could speak, get out of the echo chamber. And that's exactly what you said. If we're going to go out there, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Who in the Democratic Party is building this? Who's in charge of this? Is it Kevin Martin?
Well, look, there's nobody's in charge of it. Let's be clear about that. And this is probably somewhat true in MAGA world too. Is that
how do we save our democracy?
So everything in American politics feels more coordinated than it is. And I know enough Republican operatives to know that the assumption that there's some overly coordinated message is not quite right. What's happening right now, based on my understanding of it, you've been deeper into it than I am. Like the White House sets the tone and everybody takes their marching orders and knows to go. And obviously they have more money and more organizational structure and that will get better. Inside the Democratic Party right now, you have a bunch of people who are trying to solve this problem, one of which, two of which, three of which will eventually break out. And the Bulwark is doing a good job. I'm in the first like 4 months of doing whatever the hell it is Endless Urgency is going to turn into. We just got a content studio. I just hired a community manager. Like I'm building out my thing. There are other people who are doing this too, but you don't know who's going to break out. Like Aaron's breaking out in his like breaking news TikTok stuff. And yes, that's more echo chambery, but that might be the place that he starts. He might be able to like really help build up Midas into a real news organization that more people rely on. But if then it becomes like the core of a left thing, which can kickstart and jump other people off out into that, who can then go into culture and sports and media and stuff like that. So again, it's you got to kind of like take a million shots. For every Laura Loomer and Benny Johnson and Charlie Kirk, there were like 100 fucking losers who didn't make it. And some of which flipped over.
You said something very, very important there. Charlie Kirk, Benny Johnson, they didn't come out of nowhere. There was money put into building their platforms.
Well, that's the other thing is like, do you know how much money I've been given to build Endless Urgency? $0. This is a hobby.
That's exactly what I'm saying. This is the problem. This is what I'm saying to you. The other side, when I was on the other side, when we were in Mega, if I would come out right now and say that I have an idea of this is how we're going to put Biden in prison, or we're going to go out there and do, get these votes, or we're going to, you know what? All I had to do, we come up with an idea. Money was never the issue. Money was there. We would raise money like this. There would be an email blast would go out. Brad Pascal would put out the blast, and the matter. What I'm saying to you, money was there.
Right. That doesn't exist on the left. The donor network is, at least from my experience of it, the donor network is much more fragmented than that. They're hesitant to invest in content creators. There are people who are doing it. To be clear, there's Chorus, which is there's a lot multiple stories out there about Chorus. Taylor Renslin.
How do we maybe unite this, Mike? Maybe I'm saying to you, how do we unite the message? Maybe go out there, because I know, like you say, there's a lot of people doing a little, but unite, because there is a way right now. There is that window of opportunity. I mean, obviously, look, if he incites the insurrection and he goes that route, I don't even know, what we can, or, because at that point he's going to take away all our rights, all our voices, and basically take away our elections. But we can't think that way. We have to assume that we are going to have an election. And we have to understand that it's going to be very difficult, because he's going to make it very difficult, from having ICE agents at polling stations to trying to getting rid of mail-in voting and all kinds of stuff. We understand that. But with that said, we only have a year, and you know better than anybody, a year is nothing right now
I would disagree. Like, relative to elections, a year's a fucking lifetime. Like 3 weeks is a lifetime in elections. And so I think there is a lot of time. And again, I think if the midterms were today, Democrats would win them. And I think Republicans know that, which is why they continue to gerrymander and stuff like that. To the question on donors, though, it's like the donor class, I think, one, they love to invest in tech. They don't seem to like to invest in comms. They don't seem to like to invest in organizing. They love tech. So there's a lot of like, I want to build it, see it, hold it in my hand, be able to use it and click a button. And like, if you give me $5 million, like I'm going to build it up and I'm going to come back to you and show you like views. And I'm going to show you engagement. And I'm going to show you paid subscribers. And like, it's different. And like, look, if you're a Democratic donor and you're watching this right now and you'd like to give Mike Nellis $5 million, I would be happy to take that call. But, my thing is like, I'm also, some of the trade-off is like, I won't toe the party line. I'll tell you when I think the party is wrong. MAGA world, you got to toe that party line. And I think a lot of Democrats want that too, but they don't find people that want to do it that way. But I don't know. I truly don't know.
Yeah, no, but and I don't either, and I'm with you on the same. That's the fight that I'm fighting, because right now, because the biggest thing that I see it's two things. Is it stems from, if we had funding, you could get coordination. There's no coordination because everybody's
right. You could hire people that could coordinate, and maybe that's
exactly.
But like again, like a lot of what exists today runs through the DNC, and I'll tell you
I'll give you a good one. We have. Okay. I think there's a great individual, but for some reason I don't know. I can't get to him. Maybe you could get to him, but I think if we sit down, if I speak to him for a couple of minutes and explain to him some of the inside stuff, what's it called? Like a Governor Pritzker. He's in the middle of this. This guy's getting right now. Trump wants to put him in prison. He's fighting actually the fight in his own state. He's a multi-billionaire. He's funded plenty of different programs to go out there to help all these organizations. I mean, what the type of money we're even talking about is not even real money compared to what it, because we have the actual information and we have the actual things that we can actually go into some of these things. Like how do you, how and this is what I'm saying to you is like they'll go out there and spend tens of millions, hundreds of millions on all of these programs, all of these ideas, and they'll probably have their think tanks. I guarantee you, Mike, I guarantee there's nobody sitting in their think tank that used to be part of MAGA.
Oh, 100%,
All,
100%.
their think tank are all people that don't even know, they've never met Trump.
A lot of the think tanks are all like Harvard and Yale educated guys who are
And
reading
that's
academic papers and don't know what it's like. Like again, I'm aggressive. I mean, I went to Notre Dame, so like it's not like I went to a bad school, but like I'm aggressively not an academic. Like I'm not. I don't think academically. Like I think very viscerally. What can I see? What can I touch? What can I accomplish? I think we need more people that are like that in those rooms to develop policy. And you do need you like look, if you're writing a policy for farmers and you're not bringing on a Republican farmer to have a conversation, we do this with guns too. Like we try to like I just spent this last weekend getting my concealed carry permit. And so I was in a room that was like, frankly, I was probably the most liberal person in that room. And certainly the most liberal person on gun control, because there were a lot of errant comments about the politics of that in Illinois. And I couldn't help but think there and be like, I like this instructor a lot, and he's got a lot to say about some of these gun laws. Did anybody have a conversation with him or somebody like him? Because there are a lot of gun laws that don't make sense. We need more gun laws that make sense. But he walked through like 4 or 5 things that was like, the state makes us do this. And I was like, well, that's stupid. And it's not saving anybody. It's just like creating more of an administrative headache. So like, I feel like you've got to start bringing people to the table to solve those problems. And a lot of Democrats don't want to do that. They go, oh, you can't talk to somebody who's at the NRA. The NRA's evil. And I'm like, well, maybe, but like you need gun owners to get anything passed. So what are you doing?
Well, you know what? I'll tell you this much. That I think this is a great segment for each and every one of our subscribers or viewers right now that are watching this, that are going to follow later, that just jumped on. We're going to put it out there for those of you that listen to it. We need your voices to be our extension of our voices. You need to be the megaphone. What you're hearing, what Mike is telling you, what I'm telling you, everybody knows somebody. Go out there, spread the message. There's people out there, that have the funding, have the finances, have the ideas, join this movement, because this is a movement. This is the resistance. We're trying to build something that we are going to go out there and save our democracy. We're not out here to Mike said, we're not social media influencers. We're not selling stuff. We don't have paywalls. We're out here to get the information. The number one key is to get that information out. And as somebody that's lived it, I mean, it's like sometimes I sit there, I watch TV almost every day, and I have PTSD. Like I could literally say, I sometimes say the words before it comes out of their mouths, even because I spent almost 6 days out of the week with them on a daily, 24 hours a day, and not just with Trump, from Kash Patel to Pam Bondi to being in the Fox studios with Hannity and all of them to Solomon. I mean, you name it, Tunzing, DeGeneva, Nunez, McCarthy, all day, every day. You know what I'm saying to you? So, and it kills me because I want to sit down with some of these people and say, listen, this is what they're thinking. This is how they're acting. And instead, the resistance that I've been getting, Mike, is like Devin, like for instance, Newsom was too busy. He has too many podcasts lined up to have a 5-minute call with me. So it's like, Governor Pritzker, I can't get a hold of, so I'm going to give him the respect that he hasn't heard yet. But you know what? It's some of these people out there that, that are in leadership that won't even take the time to sit down and listen. And like you said, they have think tanks. Yeah, for the Democratic Party wants you to have a Yale, a Harvard degree to sit down and listen to what you were taught and be a historian. That's not how Rudy Giuliani or the DOJ went after the mob. They got people like Sammy the Bull Gravano. They came in and told him what was going on. You need people that are from the inside sometimes to listen, to understand the devil that you're dealing with. And that's where we don't go into, Mike. And before we go, I wanted to touch on one of the other things that he just said literally is I know you're seeing me wearing my No Kings shirt today. We're having that on the 18th, the No Kings protest, which I encourage everybody to go out there, make your
Yeah,
voices
please
heard,
go.
because this is what he fears. He fears the your voices. He fears the people more than anything else, and that is why he's talking about stopping some of these. What are you hearing, Mike, about this? What's the latest? I didn't get a chance to hear. I was following this stuff.
About no kings or what?
Yeah. About No Kings, I think he
Yeah.
came out and said something that they're trying to stop it, tied into Antifa, look into
Well,
funding.
I mean, all weekend, every MAGA surrogate on cable news and all of that is them going, well, we think they're all paid protesters and they're all Antifa. And like, there's likely going to be millions of Americans that show up this weekend again. And last time it was the largest protest movement in history and the media largely ignored it. The fact that they are already making a big deal about it ahead of time tells me that they think the media is going to grab a hold of it this weekend and run with it. So I don't know, but I'm here in Chicago. I imagine it's going to be quite large. I'm going to try to go myself. It's always hard with kids on the weekends. But I think I'll try to be there. I'll probably be there. But they're scared. They're scared. And like, look, I think some of it's like we talk about what they're doing in Chicago, and we talk about the militarization of American cities, democratic cities, and like some of what they're tracking for is like what's the public's tolerance for it? Is the public paying attention? Are they going to rise up? Are we going to have a problem if we do this? And so if they show them a big protest movement, if that continues to be reflected in the polls that show him losing popularity, that show his actions being unpopular, they're going to think twice before they do certain things. And then they're going to have to go all the way. And I don't know if you've noticed, this is an aggressively armed nation that doesn't like being told what to do for the most part. And they're going to run into problems like that too if they try to do something like the Insurrection Act. So they're tracking that, and they continue to just sort of like push against the walls to see if it's made of paper or if it's made of stone. And they're getting closer and closer to the stone, I think. Whether or not that stops them, I don't know.
I could have said it better than myself. I mean, Mike, 100%. Everybody listen to what he just said to you. Go out there. They're scared. That's why they're trying to shut. And they're testing. Just like Putin is sending drones over Europe to see how NATO responds. These are tests. Same way Trump is floating the insurrection, National Guard. These are all tests to see where the public is. And I agree 100%. And that's why on the 18th, we need to make a stance. We need to show him. He needs to understand. And the whole world needs to come out there and make it that loud that the media can't ignore it. And like I said, everybody could do something. If you can't go out and protest, you could put a sign in your lawn. If you can't do that, you could write a letter to your congressman or congresswoman. If you can't do that, you could put a post, a message. You could take this, reshare, repost it. You could become a subscriber. And if you can't become paid subscribers, because of you, that's what keeps our platforms alive and allows us. Because like Mike said, we don't have the big billionaires. We don't have the media donors. We don't have the support the right does to push their lies. And trust me, it takes 10 times harder to defeat a lie than it is to spread a lie. So that's why we need each and every single one of you to stand up right now. Hit that button on top, that great button. Make sure you subscribe to Mike. Make sure you subscribe to me. Those of you that can, become paid subscribers, become contributors to our mission, to our movement. This is the resistance. Mike, thanks so much for coming on here. We got to do this more
Thank you for
often.
having me.
And let's speak offline, because I think we have some ideas that we could put together and get this thing going.
Sounds good. Thanks, Lev.
Okay,
Appreciate you.
buddy.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
I got to log off too. All right.